What's up guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at how I painted Myconid from the recent Cartesian Creations Kickstarter. It was painted up for them so that they could use it as a raffle prize at a convention a few weeks ago. It's quite an odd model, so I went for an equally odd paint job. If you like your models a bit weird, definitely give Cartesian Creations a visit. They've got some pretty cool stuff coming out in the future. We're going to start off by mixing a 2-to-1 mix of scale colour fuchsia and sunset purple. If you want, you can use Games Workshop Screamer Pink instead. Use this as your base colour and just block in the pink over the main surface of the model. Try not to hit any of the mushrooms so they will be easier to paint later on. I'm putting this on fairly thin so that it doesn't obscure any details. You can see here that the second coat covers quite nicely. Now we'll take some scale colour violet and we're going to paint the hands. You can get the same sort of colour here by mixing the pink you used on the body with a bit of your favourite dark blue colour. Paint about 2/3 of the way up the hands. Then we're going to paint the pink over the rest of the area. Now, while the paint is still wet, we'll draw the two colours together and we'll begin to blend them with a fairly rough wet blend. It doesn't need to be exact as we'll be painting over this in a moment. This is just to give you something to work with. So now that we have a bit of a blend, we'll start to pull the sections together by drawing some of our pink colour up over the violet, pulling the paint over the raised areas so that it fades into the main pink colour of the body. You can see here that I've already painted the tips of the fingers with a dark blue, so we'll repeat the same process, but this time we'll draw the violet over the blue up towards the middle of the hand. This just helps to join the two colours together. I used scale colour deep blue to paint the fingers, but any dark blue will work just fine. Now, just so you have something to aim for, you can see I've finished off this side of the model and we'll be showing how to do that in detail on the other half of the model. So we'll start off quite simply by adding some Vallejo Ivory to our pink base colour and we'll use that to highlight the prominent raised areas. At this stage, I'm more worried about blocking in where the highlights will go rather than trying to get a smooth blend. Add some more ivory to your highlight and start to emphasise where you want your brightest spots to be. Generally we want these to be on the points which catch the most light, which is either going to be near the top or towards the middle, depending on the shape of the section you're working on. Now that we have an idea of where our highlights are, we'll start to block in the shadows. For that we'll use some of our violet and we'll just paint it into the recessed areas next to where we have our highlights. Mix a little bit of your violet into your pink base colour and we'll use that to block in this section here, just to create a bit of colour variation. We'll remove this hard edge at the bottom here by glazing over it with some of that same purple mix. I'll just block in another shadow here in this recess over the eye. We'll use some pure ivory now, and we'll add some very sharp highlights at the centre of each of our light spots. This recessed area here will be in shadows, so we'll just darken it down a bit by using the same purple mix from earlier. Add a bit of ivory to that purple and we'll sketch in a few more highlights. For this section in the centre, we'll use some of our original pink colour to pick out some of these little details here. And we'll highlight those in the same manner by simply adding some ivory to the mix. Now we're going to continue highlighting the purple details by simply adding more ivory to the mix. To do the mushrooms, we'll first base each of them in an off-white colour. I'm using scale colour birch, but you can use whatever paint you like. GW Screaming Skull would work really well here. Don't forget to paint the stalks of the mushrooms as well. Next we will use some Toxic Waste Green from Scale 75 Fantasy and Games range, and we'll thin it down with a bit of water so that it's a glaze consistency. These paints come out the bottle pretty thin already, so you don't need a lot of water here. If you don't have this paint, you can make an equivalent by adding some Flash Skips yellow and some white to some Skarsnik green. Now we'll just glaze over the mushroom caps. The green we're using here is very intense, so just 1 or 2 glazes will be enough to get the effect we're after. Paint the stalks of the mushrooms in the same manner, but this time we'll use Goblin flesh, again from the Fantasy and Games range. Now, in order to make the mushroom caps a bit more rounded, we'll glaze down towards the base of each cap with our Goblin flesh, and we're going to build this up over a few layers. We'll keep using our Goblin flesh and we'll create a bit of a glow effect by glazing over any areas of the model that are close to the mushrooms. This is quite a subtle effect, so you want to be careful to build it up over a few layers. Just be sure to let each glaze dry thoroughly before you apply another one. To make the mushrooms a bit more interesting, we'll give them a few spots. To do that, we'll thin down our initial pink colour to essentially a glaze consistency. Then we'll use that to paint a little circle on the surface of the mushroom, allowing the glaze to form a little pool. Now, when you're working with glazes, this is generally the exact opposite of what you want to do, as letting it pool will create an edge stain. But in this case, it actually gives quite a nice effect, because when the glaze dries, it automatically creates a little ring on the outside of each spot, which gives you a more organic look. I used the same basic processes for the rest of the model, so it's essentially rinse and repeat on the other parts. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed this and found some things you could use. Don't forget to like and share the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks again. Bye for now.